What is going on, homies? Have you ever wondered how you can take this bait and turn it into a pre-rigged line through swim bait? Oh, well, that's what we're gonna do today. So I've had some time on my hands. I've been rigging the boat, getting everything set up for the 2023 season, for shooting videos and stuff like that. And what happens when I have a little time on my hands is I start playing around with stuff. I get into a lot of trouble because I spend a bunch of money at Monster Bass, at Tackle Warehouse. I buy a bunch of terminal tackle and I start playing with lures and just screwing around. So one thing I've always wanted to do is make a pre-rigged swim bait. But the trick is there were a lot of like workaround ways to do it, but they weren't exactly perfect. You know, running like a WD-40 tube through the swim bait, things along those lines. So I was trolling around in Tackle Warehouse and I found these guys right here. So these are fat tubes. They are lined through, let me show you one real quick. They're basically like modded sort of brass weights that have a hollow sort of tube inside of them that are all ready to go to make your own personal pre-rigged swim bait. And what's cool is you can kind of do this with any swim bait. Now, the one key is it should be like a more full-bodied or totally full-bodied swim bait. So what we're gonna do it with today, this is the new Bass Mafia Daingerous Swimbait. Chris L. Dane makes an epic bait. It's kind of like the old Mag Draft with some modifications on it. Kitex work, a variety of full body swim baits. Those are the easiest ones to do it with. You're gonna need a few tools. I'd highly recommend have a little case of drill bits. This is kind of like the easiest way that I found to do it. There's a lot of different sizes of these two. This is the 3/8. With the 3/8, the drill bits work easier. They make them down to, I think, like an 1/8 or a 16th, like small little skinny tubes. With those, you can do it with a toothpick or you can do it with a nail. You don't need to go through all this process. But when you're talking about like a 6.5 inch, 7 inch swim bait, you need to be a little more methodical with it. The other thing I'd recommend having is a little power drill like this Ryobi or whatever you got. You don't need a bunch of power. It just makes it a lot easier to do. You can do it with your hands. It's a little easier with the drill. I'd recommend you have a 1/0 treble hook, whatever your favorite treble hook is. Savage Gear makes an epic treble hook that actually has a little like a fishing line or like a braid line loop on it. It's great when those fish are like thrashing around. You don't lose the bait as much or they don't lose the hook. But in this case, definitely if you don't do that, have yourself a little split ring, or if you're fishing more open cover style water, a swivel. Like a pretty heavy duty swivel. You're still gonna need to put a split ring on it to attach the hook, but have yourself a treble with a split ring or a swivel. So the biggest key with this is where and how you mount the tube so you're able to get good action out of the bait so it swims right. Because when you're fishing these pre-rigged or these line through swim baits, for the most part, it's a slang and reel. You're doing like a slow roll or a pulsated reel. What's cool with the new Dangerous Swimbait is you can reel it a little bit faster. It doesn't wash out like the Mag Draft. It has, I don't know if it's the mass or the way, I don't know. It's something with the design. Basically, I can put a little bit of speed on this thing without it sort of blasting out and washing out, which is kind of nice. So what you're gonna do is this. Line it up. So I'm gonna take a very small drill blade or drill bit, just like this. And what I'm gonna do is, and it's important to spend some time doing this part of it because this is really integral to the bait working correctly and to you getting a good finished product. So I'm going to take this, and with this slot, I can kind of get an idea about where it needs to go through. So I'm gonna try to kind of like line it up. Basically what I want this thing to do is to come out right at that nose, just like that, and then dangle out just a little bit like that. So I'm trying to achieve that sort of soft angle. You're gonna be surprised because you'd think it'd have to go like at a 45-degree angle. A lot of times it's a very flat angle. So I'm gonna try to find that angle, and I think it's like right about there. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna put that tube in there because I think I have the angle, and this is where the little drill bit comes in handy. I'm gonna slide, oops, I gotta go with a smaller drill bit. I'm gonna slide that smaller drill bit right through that hole, and I'm going to go ahead, let me get this just right. So it's right about there. I'm gonna go ahead and kind of like mark it and jam that drill bit in there, and then I'm gonna draw this off. So basically it lines up the angle that I want to be at, and then I'm gonna use my fingers and I'm going to sort of bring that drill bit through so it comes out right at the nose. And this is where you want to be very integral and very careful so that you're coming out, yep, that's right where it needs to be. So you're basically coming out right at the nose of the bait right there. And I'm basically I'm sort of pre-tapping it, you know, for all the hardware guys. I'm just kind of doing a little tap so that I know exactly where my end point is and my start point is. I'm gonna kind of back that back and forth through the nose of the swim bait, and then I'm just going to draw it out. So I have my guide hole, and that's where I'm gonna take my little power drill. I think this is a 5/32 bit. And I'm going to find my guide hole and just kind of let my drill catch as I'm going through. So nice and easy. Now, the reason we're using the drill is it'll actually draw the plastic out. So it's not only boring a hole, but it's clearing the hole as you go through. And the drill bit is smaller than the fat tube that I'm gonna use. So it's still gonna be nice and snug in there, but at the same time, the plastic's gonna be removed so I can actually fit it in there and I'm not jamming it and then it's like flaring out. So I'm just going to do a very slow, see how I came out right at the nose right there? So I came out right at the nose, and you want to be very careful because you don't want to wreck the bait. So I'm going to slowly spin it as I draw it back on out. You see how that plastic just came out? So all this plastic just came out, and that was what was cleared out of the hole. So we can go ahead and run that fat tube through without it getting basically like fat-headed, without over puncturing or over puffing the swim bait. The next process is super simple. So I'm gonna take that fat tube, and I already have my guide hole, and I'm just going to use a bit of pressure and a little bit of twisting to basically run this tube through the guide hole. You want it so that the capped end, the end with the ridges on it, is at the bottom because that's where you want your hook to be. So I'm just going to slowly press it on through. And you can use some pressure at the tip too, so you're not over ripping the bait or anything like that. You're almost there. It is a bit of a process, but I think we are good. All right, so you can see I have my tip, hole comes out, I have sticking down just right there, and you can even kind of back it into the bait just like that. That's how we're actually gonna finish it. But basically that tube is in there, it comes out the nose right in the middle, so we're gonna get nice even action. Now this is the easy part. Once we're done with this, it's a line through, right? So basically you're gonna take your main line, I cut off a little piece of line here to kind of show you guys how to do it. You're gonna take your line and you are going to run it through the fat tube until you see it come out right at the bottom right there. So I got my line right there coming out, and you're gonna draw a little bit of extra out. And all you're gonna do is take that treble hook that you got, that 1/0 treble hook, and you can tie Palomar, you can tie whatever your favorite fishing knot is. So I'm gonna tie the Palomar. The reason you wanna put a ring on there or that swivel is basically instead of just the hook ring banging against the fat tube, it gives it sort of a buffer, and it allows it to sort of, I guess you call it, it like plugs it up a little bit easier so you're not just jamming that hook in there, because a lot of times, especially on the smaller ones, the actual eye of the treble hook is pretty small, so it can get kind of lodged in there, or you can get your knot lodged in there, and you do not want that. So I'm gonna go ahead and tie this knot. So it's gonna end up looking something just like that. You have your dangle hook, you have your line coming through, it's your own personal line through swim bait, pre-rigged, ready to go. These fat tubes come in various weights. Always remember, this is a 3/8, so it's a 3/8 with a, I think, 6.5 inch swim bait. In this case, it's a lot of plastic, right? So the 3/8 is actually gonna run it pretty shallow, probably like 1 to 4, 1 to 5 on a slow roll retrieve. Just remember, the heavier plastic you use, the heavier weight you need to use, even if you're still fishing it shallow. So you gotta play around with that, but that is your finished product. Pretty gnarly, right? Like, that thing is pretty sweet. You can do some other little tweak mods to it. Basically, that hook sticks right in the hole. That's why we use that ring, because it kind of hits against the hole and inhibits that hook from getting stuck. So how about it? Make your own pre-rigged swim bait. Try it with anything. This is the Dangerous swim bait, but any full-bodied or semi-full-bodied bait, and dude, power drill and a drill bit, it'll guide you through. And dude, setups like these catch freaking bigs. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hit that like and subscribe button. I'll put links to all this stuff down in the description box below so you guys can go check it out. Go slang. Go rig some baits, dude. Tight lines, homies.